Hi guys, welcome back to Daniel's Tech World here on YouTube. My name is Daniel Rosehill. I'll bring you today's video from Jerusalem, Israel. I thought I would do another video on the camcorder market because I've had a couple of chats over recent days with camcorder operators. There's a lot of news crews currently about here in Jerusalem where I live because of the conflict going on with Gaza, and after a couple of drinks I feel a bit less reticent about coming up to guys and asking them what camcorder they're using, and we have chats about camcorders. Camcorders, of course, are still very much the standard in broadcast journalism, but elsewhere, particularly among YouTubers, they are less popular. But it is a cool market. This is my guy. I'm going to bring it over, the Canon XA40. It is their kind of one of their compact pro camcorders. So it may not look that compact, but when you compare that to the big, bulky broadcast journalism cameras I mentioned before, ENG cameras, it's really quite a bit smaller. For those who are, I'm trying to evangelize to the camcorder side. What are camcorders? Well, most folks these days shooting YouTube videos are using mirrorless cameras, which are, intended for photography, but they do video, and they do video very well. But camcorders are basically built for video. Some people think the difference between a camcorder and a non-camcorder is that camcorders have fixed lenses, and I don't think that's actually really the best distinction, because there are some camcorders that have interchangeable lenses, and then you have cinema cameras which are sort of look like camcorders, and some people might even sort of class them as camcorders. So there's really no hard and fast definition, but for most camcorders it's the form factor, by which I mean the shape of the tool, that they try to put as much stuff as in physical switches as possible, because they're intended for news gathering, documentary filming, and places where you don't want to be fiddling around with menus. So yeah, there are really no, as I said, hard definitions, but that's the general rule of thumb is camcorders. The lenses can't be changed, and they're built for video. That's very important, as opposed to mirrorless, which are built primarily for photography. So I said I would just do, just a quick run through of what's on the market, and then going on to B&H photo and video again. And they have their camcorder listing divvied up into two. They have one category called camcorders and one called consumer camcorders. And I've definitely done this overview before. You'll notice when I'm summing up the numbers here, we have 52 consumer camcorders and 55 pro camcorders. So about 100 in total. And that's a point I made before. If you want to get into camcorders, that is I think a big advantage actually, that you're not overwhelmed with hundreds and hundreds of options. Who uses camcorders and why is it smaller? Well, you've got broadcasters, you've got documentary people, you've got filmmakers. So the market tends to be skewed towards professional usage these days. Like they still have consumer camcorders. Whoops, where's consumer gone here? But I would say most consumers nowadays are veering in towards using mirrorless. So I think the camcorder market's actually more vibrant on its consumer side of it. So basically, I'm just going to kind of show a few options from B&H, and these are their current prices. So the top seller in consumer is the Canon Vixia HFG70, which is a 4K camcorder. Now this guy is basically kind of a consumer version, I would say, of what I have, the XA40. I'll just put myself down there. I'll put myself up in the top right so I don't get in the way of the product photos. And we'll see there's kind of just a few main manufacturers in camcorder land. Canon's one of the classic ones, and this is 1100 USD. Now the advantage of camcorders, as I said, is that the lens is built in to the body. So you don't need to price out the actual camera and the lens separately. For 1,000, this is what you get. And the lenses tend to be decent. They tend to have a pretty good focal range, which is nice as well. Now, this guy, what really separates this from a pro camcorder is it's actually kind of just like the bottom half of the XA40, basically. I'm pretty sure that's the only difference here. They don't have the interchangeable pro handle, which has your XLR inputs. So really the pro versus consumer camcorder differences: in professional camcorder, you will generally have XLR audio inputs. Another thing you'll commonly see in pro level camcorders is SDI outputs. For streaming, HDMI tends to be more consumer grade. and and SDI is what's used in professional broadcasting. And maybe time code as well would be another thing that consumers generally don't need, but you get in consumers. So you can see what this guy does. It's a 4K 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor. So this is kind of the common grievance with camcorders, is that to get you would get a 1-inch sensor at a lower price point in non-camcorder land. But again, the beauty of this really comes into the way that these are so usable. So that's one option if you're looking for a consumer camcorder. And again, just paying attention to the prices, you're looking at about $1,000 for getting 4K capable. Now, I'm going to just go for the cheapest one just to show you the bottom of the market as such in consumer land. And $100 for this little point and shoot soccer mom style thing, which will just have 1080p. I'm not even gonna talk about these because they're that's just so basic. I think it would almost only be of use for buying it for a kid or something. 150. We're probably going to be about $200. Here we go. Before we get to sort of a somewhat respectable brand. So for $220, the Panasonic HC V180K Full HD. So we're not getting into 4K yet. And, these things are actually quite useful. Believe it or not, there's a popular YouTube channel in Israel called the Ask Project. Quite a big YouTuber. And he does great videos of going into Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, and interviewing Israelis and Palestinians. And I met Corey once for coffee, and I asked him, what are you shooting on? And it was something very similar to this. Internal audio, little handheld thing. And so these things aren't to be dismissed. They get the job done. And, I often say that 1080p is good enough for the vast majority of projects. Most people do not need 4K. So if you're very budget constricted and you just want to get started, I spent about $200 on my first camcorder. So pretty much this, and it really worked me. It was great for a couple of years. And then I decided that I wanted to explore external microphones, and then I upgraded. So don't knock these. So Panasonic, Sony, again, 228. These would be the main camcorder brands. I'm excluding Minolta. You'll have these Chinese brands. I don't know if Minolta is Chinese, but the ratings are all pretty bad. That will give you 4K at the lower price, but I would really recommend sticking to the kind of tried and trusted ones, such as, again, another Panasonic. So just interestingly, on B&H, you can filter according to the resolution. So I'm going to filter on 4K, and just to show what you need to spend to get 4K these days. And I'm going to gloss over Minolta because they all have such bad reviews. And we will find, not really calling these camcorders. This is what I would call a camcorder. Panasonic HC-V870K Ultra HD camcorder. So that's 4K capable. You're getting a 1/2.3 inch lens, 20 times optical zoom, 5-axis image stabilization, and I'm not sure you'll even get an external microphone input on this, but it will tell you whether you will or not in the specs. So that's taking it to the 4K level in consumer camcorder land. And what you'll also get with camcorders typically, now this doesn't have it as far as I can see, is a cold shoe. Sometimes manufacturers neglect that, and it drives me crazy because a cold shoe is where you can attach all these accessories. So I like this website. Someone's probably asked if you can hook up an external microphone, or you can find that in the spec sheet as well. Built-in mic, yes. White balance modes, and it can do stills as well. Although no one really uses a camcorder for stills, and it does have one cold shoe, so I take that back. So anyway, that is the consumer market. Now let's look into pro camcorders, and you can just see, as I said, there's no hard definition even between really a camcorder and a mirrorless, I would argue. And just likewise, there's no real hard definition between consumer and pro camcorder, but you'll just recognize the kind of beefy shape of these from seeing news crews operate these. So basically, for $3,000, you can equip yourself with a real, camera that you'd see your average news journalist touting around. This is a Panasonic HC-X2 4K, and it's currently their top seller, B&H's top seller in the pro camcorder market. Now these guys, camcorders, the specs evolve, like this is 4K, but the look just stays. People love this look, the guys who use it, which, as I said, tends to be a lot of news journalists and whatnot. And the real virtue of camcorders is that they put everything in easily reachable buttons. So you can see here there's just a ton of toggles for just everything, right? You've got 3 user operated buttons, you've got an ND filter switch there, focus assist, focus buttons, levels for the microphone. So although this looks very intimidating, you know, camcorder people tend to use them a lot as a generalism. You know, news crews who are out using these things every day, you tend to learn the switches very quickly. So that is number 1. I'm just going to filter on the cheapest options. So just to show you what the bottom of the market looks like. To get the Pro top handle, which is very useful because you get that XLR input, 1,000-1,200 for this JVC. That is a HD. Oh, sorry, this guy's actually 4K. So it's come down a little bit in price. You can now get 4K with a respectable brand like JVC for 1,200. And they've got other options there, including the Canon XA60, which is the most basic Canon XA they're selling. They're not selling the XA40 anymore. Just in terms of brands, if I sort by brand here, you can see there's actually very narrow selection of brands. We see those kind of cheapy brands dropping out of the market when we get to the pro level. We actually only have 5 brands represented here. Blackmagic, who do the cinema cameras. We have Canon. We have JVC actually making the most camcorders, Panasonic and Sony. So I would say in camcorder land, those are what I'd call the big 4. And interesting that JVC actually make the most camcorders, followed by Sony and then followed by Panasonic. Sorry, it's actually JVC, Sony, Canon, Panasonic is the order. You know, which is more professional? My observations are I see news crews using, in my locality, mostly Sony and Panasonic, but that could just be a local market thing. I think these are all, you know, good enough that you could use them for, you saw that one for house of worship. That's a common camcorder use case, as is sports, videography, and, you know, probably all of these are great. I think that's the beauty of camcorders is they all just work and they're supposed to just keep shooting until, I think someone said once, they keep shooting as the world ends. So that's the camcorder market. I'll put a link to B&H, but basically there's only about 100 camcorders on the market, 50 consumer, 50 pro, looking at about 1,200 for HD on the consumer side and looking at about 1,600 on the pro side, ranging up to, actually let's just finish the video with that. Let's look at the top of the market. Sorting on most expensive, right? This is why I say camcorder, some of them have interchangeable lens, because they're just selling the body of this one. Likewise, a body for $25,000. Wow, one that has a crazy lens built in is $20,000. So there's quite a range actually in the top of the camcorder market. You know, getting up to 15,000 for this guy with a few accessories. So you can spend as little as, in inverted commas, a few thousand or up to 20 to get the really pro stuff. There's a Canon, the most expensive Canon camcorder is the XF705, which clocks in at 7,000 US and is non-interchangeable, 1-inch CMOS, support for a few more professional codecs, and 4K up to 60 FPS. Thanks for watching, guys. That'll round up the camcorder roundup for November 2023. More videos on tech subjects coming soon.